better than ever. And I know right now that I'm going somewhere and I need some cheddar. Oh, baby, better.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Andre Luck here for my next episode of the Sports Sales Show, where I'm going to talk about working in major, minor, and college sports, major league, minor league, and college sports, and what the differences and similarities are in different sales roles. I've worked in all or worked with all of them, so can talk through because I know a lot of people are looking to get new jobs here after their semester or looking to switch jobs and change jobs. And sometimes there's a stigma of like, oh, I can't do college sports or minor leagues. So just going to debunk all that and talk through the differences, the similarities, and kind of my experience working at all different levels and what that looks like. So I guess we can kick off there. I'll start with my very first role in sports, which lasted like a week. I don't ever really talk about. Went to this career fair when I was in college, or this job fair, and I came across this guy. It was like I don't know, it was like minor league, like basketball league in Arizona. And I laughed because they played at a local university. And my dad came out with my younger sister to come support. I don't even know what I did. I think I set up like marketing stuff and like set up like the referees locker room and things like that. Definitely not glamorous by any means. And so my dad was one of the first people to get there, and he's like, all right, I'll get tickets, give me the best seats you have. And it was like 10 rows back. And he just looks in the parking lot. He's like, what do you mean? There's nobody here. Like, what are you talking about? So we had given out so many free tickets. So like by the time like someone came to buy tickets, I guess I should have got him free tickets. Now I look back on it, know how the game works. But like that was my first introduction. And after that one game, I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. But then got the opportunity to work in college in the athletic department at Arizona State. So got to see what that was like. And then went to work for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that's where I saw there was a big change. Again, like college sports, you're doing a lot of everything, different price points of what you're selling and who you're working with, and definitely the lights were a little bright when I got to the big leagues working for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But obviously, then you adjust, and had a great time there. But definitely got spoiled because you have more resources, you have more systems, processes, and structures. So I actually went back to Arizona State as a manager and expected things to just operate the same way. And like the athletic department's different, the number of people you have working there is different, and I didn't mentally train myself for that adjustment. So I definitely struggled a bit when I first got there, and then got back into major leagues working for the Astros and then the Marlins. So got to see a little bit of it all and like the differences of working through that. And I think my biggest takeaway is like being ready for the challenge and meeting your organization where they're at in their growth journey. Whether it's major league, minor league, there's a different stages, because like the Yankees are a different spot than like the Tampa Bay Rays, and like if there's like a new baseball team that comes online in the next couple of years, like there's a different brand and like there's different things you're focused on. It's not one size fits all. And I was just like, well, ticket sales is ticket sales, and like some of that is true, but you also have to be aligned with where the organization is, where leadership is looking to take it, and the direction that they're going into. And being an entrepreneur, I've really enjoyed working with these emerging leagues, these startup leagues, these building things from the ground up, because that just excites me, and like getting to build something for the future. So that was my experience working in them, now consulting with a lot of minor league teams and getting to see like the differences and all that. But going back to the major league. So obviously I worked in Major League Baseball, but had a lot of friends in the NBA, the NFL, so I got to see what that's like, and you get to work with them too, and in a consulting capacity now. Again, there's different levels across the different leagues. The NFL, high premium, not really trying to move season tickets. A lot of that kind of takes care of itself. Maybe just trying to fill in like those last edges around like ticket sales. So heavy premiums, it's like we're pretty much sold out, or we're going to be close to sold out. So how do we max up like the amount of revenue or yield or ticket yield, or what we're looking to get out of every ticket? Where baseball, there's so many games, so group sales is a big opportunity. It's about volume, and trying to find the casual fan that can come out a number of times versus someone who's paying a high premium for one game. And then soccer and basketball kind of in the mix in the middle of that, because it's less games, but maybe not a high end premium inventory standpoint for there. So that's one of the big things, is just understanding that like even at the major leagues there's differences in team performance, revenues, pricing, markets, all that. But the good thing is there's a lot of resources that are poured into it. It's a little misleading or a little deceiving because you think big brand, but they really run like a small organization. A lot of the money goes into the stadium, or paying the rent or the lease of like whatever ballpark or arena that they play in, paying the players. Like that's the biggest out of pocket cost that a lot of these organizations have. So when you look internally in the organization, it's very small. You can make more money probably outside of, even if you're at one of the major sports leagues and major sports teams. But again, there are more resources than if you were in college and or in minor league sports. And again, that comes with this pros and cons. There's the brand, there's the affinity. If you like systems, processes, structure, and not to say that it's easier, it's just more people are more aware when you make that first outreach. But again, the trade-off is you're selling a higher price point. So the pool of people who could afford your ticket versus maybe a cheaper option or a different alternative, like it just starts to shrink. And then like I said, for me, the lights were a little bright when I got there because it was different than working in college sports. And although there's definitely transferable skills, just understanding that, all right, now I'm selling premium, I'm selling potentially partnerships and corporate partnerships and like dealing with bigger businesses and higher net worth individuals. And it's just a different conversation that you're having with them versus maybe the fan, or in college, the alumni person that you're working with and everything like that. So I think it's really just that and understanding. I think the biggest hindrance, I would say, or just the thing to be aware of, is there's a lot more layers. There's a lot more red tape. If you're looking to get something approved, like it needs to go to like HR and get approved by your legal and compliance. Like we work a lot with teams on like the tech side of things, and I've been on the other side of like purchasing technology and getting the sign offs, getting the check offs. Like one for us right now is just like with AI and like getting people comfortable around using different AI tools, whether it's ChatGPT or Journey, which is the tool that we've built and that we're taking to market. Just getting them comfortable with like reps using it and not sharing proprietary information and getting things through. So it's great that they have the resources to invest in like an enterprise-wide tool like that. But at the end of the day, it's also a little more difficult because there's just more layers of approval and everything like that. So just like out of sports, dealing with big businesses versus small businesses, there's always going to be those levels and those layers to it. But that's what I've seen working in and with major league sports teams. On the minor league side, one of the things they talk a lot about is you do everything. You hear that you pull the tarp when it rains. People wear the mask. Everyone wears the mascot costume. Like you're doing sales, you're doing marketing, you're doing PR. And so I get to work with a lot of minor league sports teams too. Some more established and some that are again emerging and starting up. There's a lot of work to do there. So you really got to hone in and focus on what's most important. And if you're not diligent and intentional about setting boundaries, like you'll get stretched thin, and that scope creep really comes into play. And really time blocking and managing your time and making sure like here's what we're focused on. So that's the biggest thing. I think for the longest time it was like, oh, I can't work in minor league sports. I got to work for one of the big major four sports leagues. And I think you see a lot of people now seeing the opportunity to build something like I talked about, or it's just they're excited about the opportunity, they're excited about the potential. There's a lot of investors who are coming from out of sports and maybe look at things a little different. And so where I enjoy working as a consultant with minor league sports teams is like there's a opportunity to test some things that if proven well you could then take to a major league team that maybe wants to have more certainty in like what that those new processes are, whether it's different training techniques, or there's different technologies like I said that we're working with people on. So it's easier sometimes to get decisions approved and make decisions, but you can get stretched pretty thin. I'd say the big difference in minor league versus major league is major league, a lot of times team performance can really drive like outcomes, and like a lot of that's out of your control. If the team was expected to play well and you set goals based on that and they don't, like that really drives it. In minor league, it's less about team performance. It's not like, especially like I think of baseball a lot, the goal is if someone's playing well, or if a team like players are playing well, they're getting up to the big leagues. So you're not expecting them to be there. You're not buying tickets for them to win a championship. Now, if they're playing well and that's the talk of the town and they do get to the championship, you'll probably sell more tickets, but you're not banking on that. You're focused on experience. You're focused on family fun. You're doing some crazy like promotions and things like that too, just to get people to come out and try the product, and then when they have a good time, getting them to come back. So just understanding like the demographic, the focus, the goal. There's all different strategies to win. It's just knowing, again, what game is it that you're playing, and making sure that you know what that is as you step into it. And I'd say going back to college, I loved working in college because I got to work for my university both times at Arizona State. And so there's a different affinity. A lot of people that work in college sports, they do like to go work for their alma mater. But I'd say like the pros are, again, like you have a very engaged, very passionate, donor base, alumni base. Like I'm here in Miami, so obviously University of Miami made it to the national championship game, and it was here in Miami too, which is great. And you just saw like the whole town like light up. My wife's a Seminole, and she went to a watch party across the street where we were watching the game. And I have a UM shirt in my closet from when we went to a game a couple years ago in Dallas. And she's like, "Where'd you get that?" I was like, "I put it on. I have it." So like you really get caught up in that, and like there's just a different feeling about when you work for, or just getting affiliated with your college. I was talking to a group of reps. They work at San Diego State, so if you're listening, shout out. I was telling them like one of the big things they have going for them working in college is like locally there is a fan base built in. Alumni is like those are the most formidable years like in your life, the things that you remember. And like when I get an email from Arizona State or even a mailer to like go on this trip, like they do these like alumni trips, and I'll never go, but I get excited and I look through it. Or if I got that, just generally I wouldn't open that. So same with social media and everything like that. So there's just like a built-in already kind of community fan base that you can work off of and really lean into that. I'd say one of the big challenges I wasn't expecting is just compliance. There's a lot of guidelines and rules around recruiting, and I don't even know what it is like now with NIL and everything like that. But like there were certain things we could do for group sales at the major league or minor league level that we couldn't for collegiate. We had to, make sure we knew the age of players that were going on the court or on the field, because that could be deemed like recruiting and like improper benefits and stuff like that. So there's a lot you got to understand from a compliance standpoint. And there's sometimes this dance between like your best leads are also donors, so the foundation's going after them to raise money and go on the fundraising side. So who owns that relationship? And a lot of times I see ticketing people that they can't touch the premium. Like premium is handled by like foundation and donors, so sometimes there's like some internal politics and like some, this is kind of how we've always done it, which maybe isn't best for running the business. But that's just kind of some of the things that the trade-offs of working there. I'd say like from a resources standpoint, very similar to like minor league sports. Again, I stepped in and thinking I'd have all the same tools and all the same resources I had at the Diamondbacks, and I didn't. And some of that you have to build or just do it kind of scrappy and get lean with some of the things that you're doing. There's is red tape though. There's a lot of times this is public money, and you're working with public employees and government employees and things like that, and funding, and like just the layers of approval from the athletic department and the president and like the college university. So where I'm seeing college sports is obviously a big opportunity to come in and revamp some of those processes, because like again some of them are outdated. So you see third party companies like a Legends or like a Tamar Sports or a Playfly and some of these others who are coming in Learfield, and they're running partnerships for them. They're running ticket sales. They're being outsourced because they could run it probably more efficiently. They could pay the employees more, and they have more of a commercial focus. And you're also seeing a lot of people, whether it's from out of sports in general or just coming from major league, looking at it more like a major league property. With NIL and paying players, like revenue generation is a big thing. So there's more commercially minded executives, athletic directors, heads of sales that are coming in and taking that major league approach model and bringing it to collegiate sports, and seeing huge impacts and things going into that, more investment going into that. So again, I would say just knowing what it is that you're stepping into. And if you are interviewing for one of these roles or applying for one of these roles, like asking some of those questions. If you're leaving a current role at a minor league team, major league team, whatever, and going to something else, don't assume like, oh, it's sales and this is sales, or it's group sales and group sales is the same. you got to ask some of those questions and really understand. And like, are you up for the challenge of what you're stepping into? Are you up for the opportunity of what it is that you're building? Because it's not the same everywhere you go. So what I'd say is consistent across all of them. Today in 2026, AI is a big opportunity. More major league teams are investing in AI because they have more resources and just people that, are maybe looking at it from that aspect of how it helps me. But I think it's probably even better suited for, I was talking to one of the ticketing directors at one of the major sports leagues, like, this is great for our teams, but probably even more needed at the minor league level or collegiate level, because those teams are lean and they need to operate on really small resources or really low resources. So how do you use these as a force multiplier for them? So AI is a big one. I'd say the sales process, like the steps of a sales process, are pretty similar, and then the sales process is starting to be more transactional at all levels. Like, there's a lot of ticketing companies who are helping automate that process at the minor league and collegiate level, like you're seeing at the major league level. And so they're getting smarter with using data and tracking data and everything like that. So it continue to harp on, like, where do we fit in as salespeople in this future sales model? And again, it comes back to B2B. It comes back to telling an ROI story and aligning with the customer objectives and what are they focused on, and how do we match those, understand what their priorities are and help them and tell them. And it's less about, what team you work for, what college you work for. It's all about, at the end of the day, I can help you achieve business goals, and this is just the backdrop of which you do it. So that, I'd say, is consistent. Culture, like, that's huge. If you have a good culture and you can attract top talent and keep and retain them and help them feel engaged and bought into what you're doing, no matter what level you're at. I've seen it work at all different levels. It's not about pay at that point. It's people that are bought into the vision and the mission, and they all are aligned on what they're focused on. A lot of that starts at the top, from the athletic director, team president, whoever it is, and all the way down. And that alignment creates this culture of consistency and just like outperformance of what's expected and outperformance of their peers. At the end of the day, they all need to make money. And it used to be, we used to talk a lot about, when I sold in college sports, is, the difference of really where your dollars are going. In major league, it's going to the owner's pocket. In minor or in college, it's going to help students, for their education and computers and, tutors and all that stuff. Now they're getting paid. So at the end of the day, it's a commercial business. Every company, organization is in there to make money. And so you have to be commercially focused and know, how do you generate revenue, how do you make money, no matter what tier, what level that you're at. But yeah, again, got to be up for the stage and the challenge of what it is. So those are the differences, the similarities. Obviously, if you're interested and just curious, like, hey, I'm looking at this opportunity, just want to pick my brain, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Happy to talk through that and share what I'm seeing out in the market and what I'm seeing out in the landscape for each of those. So every episode, talk about something that stood out. Again, I shared that we're bringing to market Journey AI, where that comes with pre-built sales assistants, where a sales team can come in. They have this tool, AI tool already built for them with their playbooks, with their training docs, and they can prompt it to do research, help them close deals, help them up level their skills. And so we're talking to teams about it, and one consistent theme keeps coming up is around the San Antonio Spurs and what they're doing around AI and the partnership they have with OpenAI. And over the past year, they've really built these processes and agents and doing a lot more automation. All things I think teams can get to. And this isn't selling Journey; it's just telling, like, it takes 6 months, a year to get to that point where we, with Journey, it's already pre-built and you can come out of the box with it and like have a lot of those functionalities. But if you are looking to build it internally, it takes a lot of work and a lot of collaboration. So why I say they stood out, like, kudos to them, because they got alignment from their IT team, I'm guessing, and like executive leadership, because that's where it has to be sponsored. That if you're going to do an investment like that, you're changing your processes, you're changing the way you work. So they're going to be, one of the early leaders out there, that are out there, innovating and changing the way that we approach sales and ticket sales in general. And a lot are starting to follow and trying to copy, which they should be, to try and catch up. So shout out to them. Or that's what something that stood out to me in a lot of the conversations I'm having. It was a big topic, it sounds like, at the NBA league ticketing meetings, and continue to spread across the industry. Shout out, I was in Texas last week, so spent time in Round Rock with the Express, San Antonio Missions. Got connected with them through my old team president at the Astros, Reed Ryan. Amazing person, family. They, have ownership stake in both of those, but both of those organizations have a great culture, high investment from the top. The Missions even had their general manager in a lot of the training, asking questions, participating. Like, you don't see that often. So I'd say that the big shout out to them is like their leaders were invested, they were bought in, they were asking questions, they had their team came prepped and ready to go, and they took a lot from it. And from B2B selling to telling ROI stories to using AI, like they're going to be ahead of the game, not because of us, but because they're going to take this and apply that and put that in their systems and processes every day, and they're going to be some of the top performers within minor league baseball and have some big years this year. So shout out to them, kudos to them. Again, Reed, thank you for the introduction and helping bring that together. Second year working with Round Rock, and first year getting to work with San Antonio and their team. So amazing time. So in closing, it's less about the logo. Obviously, like I liked working for, how do you get there? You go, for that logo. A lot of passion there, but it's less about the logo. It's more about the opportunity. When I got to the Astros, they weren't the best team in baseball. They were actually the worst team in baseball. They called us the Astros, but it was a lot about the opportunity and what we're building, and obviously got to see on the other side of what that looks like. So just being aware of that and thinking through that as you're going through your sourcing process or interview process, or maybe you've outgrown the stage of where the company is and you're looking for something different or looking to elevate, like just being aware of that. So just make sure you're up for the assignment. But if you like this video, click like. Helps get this and show this to more people. Share this with someone in your network who thinks you think they could get a lot of value out of this. Subscribe if you want more episodes every week as we talk through the sports sales show. And like I say, every morning when I drop my daughters off for school, sometimes they're more open to it than not. But go be awesome today, and I'll be back next week with another video. Thanks all.
That's nothing, that's nothing. I'ma be doing this and I'm gonna be head hunting. Oh baby, don't know. Oh baby, don't go. Oh baby, don't know. Oh baby, don't go.